Hi everyone, we made it to 2 whole episodes already, and this one features another conversation I found incredibly enjoyable with David Worley, the president and CEO of Denver South. If you haven't heard of Denver South, you're about to. And in the style of this series, let's get right to the conversation, but not starting off learning about the organization, rather with the individual. I present David Worley. You know, you had told me that you came from the higher education system to choose working at Denver South.
Yep.
Why?
Yeah, you know, I started my career actually in engineering, and then I got somewhat interested in graduate education, so I went into higher ed, and I ended up staying there for a lot of years. And as I approached what I thought, or what I think will be the midpoint of both my biological life and my career, I began to think about wanting to do something different. And started looking for different opportunities, and kind of serendipitously, the opportunity at Denver South arose. And it has been a really wonderful transition. I enjoy this role every single day. I get to skip to work. I'm so happy to be here because there are just so many interesting things about this job. And there are a lot of interesting things about the region. It really is a truly unique ecosystem of both businesses and politics and a variety of other kind of elements of diversity that I don't think you find very many places.
Interesting. So I actually, you know, when I hear engineering, that's one of those things that like, I've grown into a true appreciation for engineers and what they do.
Yes.
And, you know, as we had talked about, you know, prior to our recording here, your organization is ones that are behind the scenes.
Yes.
And you're doing the things.
Yep.
Which to me is also like an engineer does things.
Yeah.
So is that inherent in your personality to be a person who's like, I don't need to get all the accolades, you know, shake hands and kiss babies? Are you the one that's just like, I just want to make sure things are getting done?
Yeah. Me personally, I'm kind of a merger of both. I really like people. I've always been drawn to people-oriented things. But if you follow me in my spare time, I do a lot of things that are really nerdy. I mean, I look at a lot of data. My hovbies are really nerdy. And so,
like what? Give me one of the nerdy hobbies.
I still read academic books, and it dovetails nicely with my job, because that's the kinds of questions that really every one of the staff here at Denver South in their own lane is looking at. You know, we're looking at very detailed economic data to try to figure out where we have opportunities in this region to continue to grow or to attract new businesses. Our transportation folks are often looking at traffic counts, looking at the flow up and down I-25 to try to figure out how can we improve transit through the region. We are very much a technical organization behind the scenes. Publicly, we like to try to package those learnings in a way that helps our jurisdictions and partners, and it kind of raises this region as being just a first-class region.
So we talked about, you know, just how you operate primarily. So can you tell me just like for a perspective, for somebody looking from the outside, tell me a little bit about the organization.
Yeah, good question. Denver South historically is really 2 distinct organizations. One is an economic development partnership, and the other is a transportation management association. And on the economic development end, we really work diligently to try to recruit businesses to this region. Colorado has a great collaborative environment, and it's one of the things that I think really does stand out about our region. You know, early in my career, I worked in the Northeast, and I just experienced that region very competitively in a way that I don't experience the Front Range of Colorado. And so we obviously would love great primary employers to settle in Denver South, but we're also happy if they settle outside of our corridor as well. But we want them to be in Colorado because we really believe in the region here. So one of the things we do is we recruit businesses, and that typically happens in Europe and Canada and the coast. You know, we're really looking to try to attract those great employers here. We partner with our partners at South Metro Chamber and other organizations to do a great job trying to retain those businesses, making sure they have what they need here and that they're thriving. A lot of times Denver South will take a role behind the scenes when they're having challenges with maybe a jurisdiction or a particular regulation in the state to kind of see if we can help them get unstuck. So on the economic development end, those are the two classic things we do. You notice we're sitting here, you see like the Denver South icon. That is an intentional thing. We've attempted to create a brand that is Denver South, and it's really remarkable to me that a lot of times when I'm in Denver, people haven't heard of Denver South as an actual like entity. In fact, it's a joke around our office. We're consistently mistaken for the South Metro Chamber, and so a lot of times our profile locally is not as high as it is strangely internationally. I will walk into the Farnborough Air Show in London or Paris, and I will have someone come up to me and ask me a question about Denver South. So the brand is really a brand that we very intentionally cultivate internationally and on the coast, because we want to be top of mind for folks who are looking for this kind of corridor. On the transportation end, a lot of people don't realize that we work very diligently to help people move freely throughout this corridor. So with growth comes congestion, and anybody that has spent any time in major cities around the US recognize that we do not want to become an LA or a Chicago or a New York City in terms of the congestion getting in and out and around the key business centers. And so for us, we partner with folks like RTD and the great different transportation solutions like the Lone Tree Link, which became the Link on Demand. That was a project that was a collaboration between Denver South and the city of Lone Tree. And we're constantly trying to try stuff out to see what works and what doesn't for us to help people get through the region. There's a lot of people in this area that may know about the Spin scooter and cycle program, which operates in some of the business areas around the corridor. That was a partnership with the Metro Districts and Shea Properties to see if we could improve that transportation off of the light rail to different offices and do it in an environmentally friendly and healthy way. And it's actually been a really a success that has exceeded our expectations. So those are the positive things. We do a lot of things that fail. That's kind of, I think, a part of innovation is being willing to run something and say, well, that didn't work. And that's something I know well. A lot of things I do just don't work. I'm
we don't cut that part out.
No, you leave that in there. I'm failure in chief here at Denver South. And so, yeah, all those things are really, really kind of technical in their origin and public in their delivery. And that's really what we are about, first and foremost, as an organization.
So I want to get to our next question, but before I do, just a quick note for you. If you can please stretch your answers. I mean, you're so brief on what you're answering.
Okay.
This is a joke. It's not landing very well. It's not landing. Yeah, okay. So just that's what we cut out. Yeah, no, that's fine.
I was just going to say, I have literally never gotten that piece of feedback before.
So take a breath.
Yeah.
Yeah, take a breath in between sentences. No, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think what I'd like to go to, based on everything that you were just saying, you have such a deep understanding, and you're touching a lot of points about the South Metro area as a whole.
Yeah.
In your perspective, what do you think makes the South Metro region distinct?
Yeah, that's a great question. And
if you don't mind me saying, because the other thing too is you have people that travel for work. I used to travel for work all the time, and you go to different cities and you see externally, you're like, oh, this looks like this city. This looks like that.
Yeah.
But obviously the function of it's different.
Yeah.
There are different things I grew up on the East Coast, so I've seen, in Buffalo, it was developed in the 1900s, and so streets don't function as well. They weren't developed for cars. There's also cities like LA where it was it's all about sprawl. Mm-hmm. So now you're starting to have city planners think, how do we keep it condensed in order to maximize that? So what do you think?
That is I would have to answer that question in two different passes.
Okay.
And I'll take it on economically, and then I'm going to take it on in terms of the physical dimensions of it.
Sure.
So what makes the Denver South region special in terms of economically is we really are a corridor of engineers. And I don't mean that explicitly as in like every single company is an engineering company or has a heavy technical component, but where we shine, where I see our economic differentiator being is that we do a really good job designing, developing, and in some cases producing very, very sophisticated things that go all over the world. In fact, a lot of it into outer space, right? And in fact, one little kind of factoid for people who see this video is the largest concentration of engineers in any corridor is right here in Denver South. Like that is the hallmark. Like there's just so many really talented technical people here. And so that bleeds out into other ways. I mean, obviously there are support companies like finance and legal and business services that support those companies, but kind of that technical talent kind of attracts just a very, very smart citizenry here, a very smart set of professionals, and it builds on itself. You know, I think if you want to run a financial services firm, this is a great place to be. Notice there's not a lot of engineering usually in financial services, but you've got this really, really talented workforce and very likely people that are working in financial services, their spouse or partner are in engineering. So we just have this really rich talent pool here. And I think that's actually what makes this region truly unique. I hear a lot about, and a lot of our jurisdictions rightfully want to talk about quality of life. But being an avid fan of Colorado, there's great quality of life in lots of places in Colorado. What is unique here is that intensity of business and technical acumen. On the level of the physical, which you brought up, in the question, we've worked really hard to get our jurisdictions on the same page over the last 20, 30, 40 years to have a distinct kind of look in this corridor. I think anybody that drives through and gets off any of the exits here see it immediately. It feels different. It's a very, for lack of a better way of saying it, it's a very top shelf feel. Everything is just on point. Yeah. And that was not accidental. That was an intentional, cultivated idea of the early developers of the region, and we as an organization try to continue on that legacy to keep it feeling fresh and just sharp, right? Because that's one of the things that we often get feedback on is just aesthetically how great this 8-mile corridor is. And so you combine those two things and you really end up with a unique feel. I think you can feel the kind of business intensity down here, and it looks great too, and it's one of the reasons why, again, this is my absolute favorite kind of point about Denver South, but in the 8-mile stretch that is the Denver South corridor is 1/9 of the state of Colorado's economy. And I think just for people to sit and think about that, that's a really stunning figure right there. 1/9 of the state economy is in 8 miles. So really, really a dynamic place.
Amazing. This is all stuff that I'm just like, I just eat up, right? Like to me, all the things that you're laying out there, right? Everything about how it functions. I mean, it's incredible once you start going down the path of like, well, what does my region, how does it function? How does it operate? What's there?
Yeah.
There's just so much. It's halftime, and there's much more awesomeness from David, but this middle is where I get to toss in my 2 cents. To this point, you've heard about Denver South's work behind the scenes and about our corridor of engineers. This interview got me thinking about getting things done, and knowing many of our local engineering organizations and individuals, I've personally learned just how knowledgeable they are. Their knowledge base is astonishing. Their studies into deep specifics of every tiny aspect of a project are inspiring. And their ability to meet that with execution that works is why engineering is such an admirable profession. It's a responsibility of theirs to know what is true, and in my opinion, that value should carry into all industries. As this series develops, it's important to myself and the Chamber that the content you see here isn't just noise and that things said are based in reality. True communication is incredibly hard to achieve because even if you hear the actual words that are spoken, words must be interpreted by our brains, and every one of us has good and bad wiring up there. Everyone. So try an exercise today that before you next speak, hesitate and think, is what I'm saying correct? If you read an email or text, reread it, and you may be astonished in how the message changes. And if you listen to someone talk, be critical and ask if the words you hear could have been processed by someone's faulty wires. And don't forget, you owe me $100. Did you pass that test? All right, that's enough of that. We will get back to David very shortly, but a quick chamber update. Congrats to all of the winners at the 2025 Business Awards. Our community is amazing and supports each other. 2 other Premier Chamber events are also coming up. First, it's the Tank on Wednesday, May 7th. This is the Shark Tank inspired event for nonprofits in which everyone has the ability to raise funds for incredible organizations supporting the hearts of our communities. Nonprofits are heroes who deserve your support, and don't challenge me on that. Sign up now. It's open to members and non-members. Also, on Monday, June 9th is the Chamber Golf Tournament at Meridian Golf Club. Breakfast, shotgun start, a reception with awards that follow. It's a great day for business connections and also a write-off, whether those connections pan out or not. Details on these events and all other networking, educational, and local community building events are online at bestchamber.com. Back to David in 10 seconds, but I have to tell you one of the hardest edits I made in this interview was removing David answering a question so detailed that he said he was going into the dork forest. I have never heard that. David is a treasure. Back to it. What are some of the intentional decisions that go into improving an area like this?
Yeah. Earlier you asked the question about how different regions feel different ways. One of the advantages of this region is it's a relatively new region. I mean, it really has grown up. In fact, as a kid growing up, I grew up in southeastern Colorado, and I remember driving down I-25 at age like 7, 8, 9, and I remember exactly what this corridor looked like. I actually literally remember the building that we're in now as a kid. I was thinking back about that recently. Because it's a relatively newish region, I have to just give so much credit to the early land developers who were down here. They were truly visionary and they were collaborative. Those folks got together and they realized that we needed to have transportation solutions. We needed to have the different municipalities on the same page. We needed to have sort of a vision for growth and expansion that was sustainable. And they did amazing things, like making sure that we got a light rail leg down here, making sure that we've had improvements on both I-25 and the intersections. And that's one of the technical things that we do on the transportation end of the house is we will oftentimes be a matching funder for these key projects that really elevate the region, like the walking bridges that go across I-25, the bike paths that interconnect and across jurisdictional boundaries, just the kinds of infrastructure that not only do people love now, I guarantee you in 10, 20, 30, 40 years, they'll even be more popular. So being kind of I guess I haven't thought about it this way before, but really Denver South, the organization, is the baby of those early land developers who just had a long-term vision, and our job is to always be a decade, 2 decades ahead of where the region will be, because it takes a long time to do infrastructure, and it takes a long time to actually get people's behaviors to change. But we really are working today in 2025, thinking about 2035, 2045, and that's what it takes to have the stuff ready when you need to have it.
You talk about land developers looking long term.
Yeah.
And a lot of times there's this balance of, I have this vision.
Yeah.
And it is my vision alone to execute.
Yeah.
And I see that, but you have to bring all the other governments along, residents have to, not go up in arms because you're doing this thing. And there's a balance between progress with a single vision and progress as a team.
Yeah.
What do you think is, to your perspective, to what you've seen, what's the balance of that? Is it 50-50, that there has to be trust in both directions in order to get things done?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I might say not just balance in the team, I would say balance in the community. Like, to think about this region as, there are hundreds of thousands of stakeholders in this region.
Meaning citizens?
Meaning citizens, meaning business folks, meaning our jurisdictional staff, our elected officials, and every single one of us has a slightly different perspective on what should happen. So I think one of the things that we see in the world today is very much a my way or a highway mentality. I win, you lose, right? It marks our current political era. In fact, I think when we look back 50 years from now, 100 years from now, that will be the thing that stands out about the larger era that we're in.
I agree. It's game theory. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of work on game theory.
Okay, yes. Yeah. And that's please continue. But yes.
It is an over against mentality that is just generally not conducive to having the best possible outcome. So the best possible outcome does not mean that everybody is happy. That literally happens 0% of the time, right? The best possible outcome is to have an outcome that I think accounts for a large swath of the stakeholders, and in my opinion, from the Denver South seat, is thinking long-term.
Yeah.
And doing what is in everybody's interest in a long-term fashion.
So the Denver metro area is propped up by a ton of great collaborations and partnerships. What are some of the partnerships that Denver South works with that you guys support, and all the good faith that comes out of that?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, for this particular conversation, we're great partners to the South Metro Chamber. The South Metro Chamber has been around since, 1921, doing great work in the region, very well regarded, lovely job at taking care of even our largest, most international employers, all the way down to the 1 or 2 person shop that is making muffins and selling them, in a bakery. That organization, South Metro Chamber, is just critical to have the right flavoring and to have the right engagement between all of these different business entities. We partner closely with RTD, and I think RTD themselves would acknowledge that they have challenges. Usually when I say we partner with RTD, the very first response I'll get back from someone one-on-one is this look as if they think that I don't recognize that there are challenges in our transit system. But I think RTD has a very difficult job. They're asked to cover lots of different aspects of transit and to do so equitably in a very large geographic area. So we try to help them as much as we can in this corridor to make this a shining example of how transit really can help. Our 6 jurisdictions, Denver, Greenwood Village, Centennial, Lone Tree, Arapahoe, and Douglas counties are all really important partners in literally everything we do. I think what really gets at our role as a key collaborator and kind of connecting force in the region is we're really like the ligaments of the region. To use the metaphor or the analogy actually of like a knee or an elbow, we've got great muscle and bone in this region. There has to be these connecting pieces that hold it together and help it move effectively, and that's what I feel like Denver South really is.
I have to do this just out of pure curiosity and fun. So if you're the ligaments, who's the bones?
I would say that the bones are actually the infrastructure that exists in the region.
Okay.
The literal physical infrastructure.
Who's the muscle?
The muscle is the businesses that power the region.
Circulatory system.
The circulatory system is probably actually the financial system.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, that's my dissertation was actually on money. So I actually think we underestimate the significance of the way the financial system moves the ball.
Yeah.
The tendons, though, would be our jurisdictions.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. I think the tendons of connecting the infrastructure to the businesses kind of act. It's really our jurisdictions that approve the infrastructure and actually fund it a lot of times. And in that case, that can also be Colorado Department of Transportation and others that are statewide. But that is, to stick with the bodily analogy, yeah, I think those are all off the top of my head, but I would say we're ligaments at Denver South.
I love so much that you continued on the metaphor with me. Thank you.
Yes. I will humor you.
There's a whole bunch of other systems, but we can throw those out. Denver South is accessible to the general audience and businesses and everywhere. What are maybe an event that's coming up that people can connect with you?
Yeah. Every year we do an annual event. This year it's on April 23rd. At the Denver Marriott South. We're hosting Keith Ferrazzi, who is a noted expert on leadership. He's most famous for his book, Never Eat Alone, which is a book about networking, and Never Lead Alone, which is a book about teamwork. And so he's going to be our speaker. We're really excited about that. We hope that we have a great turnout on that. That's the 1 point event. I think something that people overlook is our website. That's denver-south.com. It's a treasure trove of resources. It's not just a promotional piece for the organization. We have data sets on there. We have industry reports. We have a variety of things that I think people are surprised when they go on there and see that we provide this for everybody for free as just a promotion of the region and trying to be a useful set of tools for our jurisdictions and businesses and citizens.
A humongous thanks to David, Aaron Schneiderman, and Denver South as a whole for welcoming us into their offices for this conversation. Don't forget to go to bestchamber.com to register for every single one of the events mentioned previously in this video. And if you can't do them all, just pick one. Do it now and make it happen. Be a community engineer and execute action. And least importantly in this entire video, Lightsail is my company. We produce business videos that let you fly by light. Learn more at lightsailvideo.com. Thanks for watching and see you soon.